Hello, this is Kevin Kermis, founder of Build the Career You Deserve, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our second subject matter expert call for the month of July. Month of February. I'm getting way ahead of myself here. For the Career Mastermind program. I'm doing something a little bit different here for our call today, and that is I've opened up this for anyone to listen in. Those of you who are in the Mastermind program, the recording and the download of the call will only be available to you afterwards. And for those of you who are new to Build the Career You Deserve and the Mastermind program, I'll talk a little bit more about that later on in the call. As with all our calls, you can submit your questions using the GoToWebinar dashboard, and we'll tackle them at the end of today's call. Now, a couple of reminders, or actually just one reminder for Mastermind members. Tomorrow and Thursday are our one-on-one coaching days, so if you haven't secured your spot yet to talk with me live, you can do that by signing into the members page, clicking on Calendar of Events, and use the Time Driver link to get on my calendar. Okay, so let's get to today's call. We have a phenomenal group of guests who not only have had success with Facebook in their job search, but dispel one of the biggest misnomers out there about the tool. And in my opinion, that's that it's primarily for Gen Y. Now, Ashley, Cheryl, and Sharon collectively span the workforce generations. Now, what I want to do, too, is I want to share a quick slide about some of the demographics out there in the U.S., specifically with regards to Facebook. And one of the things that we've seen, and this is from iStrategy Labs, and iStrategy put together has been doing this for, gosh, I want to say it's about 3 years for Facebook. And what you can see through these numbers is that the largest single demographic is 35 to 54 years old at 29%, which is over 300% increase from last year. And the next number, which is the most rapidly growing group, is 55 years and older, which is up over 900% from last year. So now here are a couple more numbers to consider, okay? And I shared these prior to the webinar itself, that there are 350 million users collectively on Facebook. 50% logging in daily, spending an average of 55 minutes, and then 700,000 businesses have a presence on here. So the bottom line is this: the people you want to connect with and the people connected to those you want to connect with. So when we start talking about 2 and 3 degrees of separation, which is really where you start to uncover that hidden job market and find jobs, so that's a very important perspective to keep in mind, they're here. So the next question becomes, how do you connect with them in a social setting when you're trying to achieve a professional end? And that's exactly what our guests are going to be sharing today. So what I'd like to do is I'd like to start out by chatting with Ashley Dickinson. Welcome, Ashley.
Hi, thanks for having me on today.
Absolutely. Well, what I'd like to do is, can you share your story of how you connected with Sam Glenn, who you're working with right now?
Yeah, so what I did was I noticed that one of my Facebook friends, somebody who I actually did not know in a personal setting, his Facebook status described wanting ideas about his magazine. So then I sent him a message asking if he needed any help with the marketing or the PR or anything like that having to do with his business. And just kind of took a general interest in his company. And he then sent me an email saying that they were in fact looking for somebody to maybe help out with a few of those areas, and he had me then speak with the CEO of the company, and from there we realized that it would be a good fit, and I worked for them. And the interesting thing about it is this whole experience was very virtual. From there, by working with them, everybody is in different locations, different states even. And so it's been a very virtual or a global community we created.
Hey, Ashley, could you do me a favor, and if you can push your microphone in a little bit closer? I think people are having a little bit of a tough time hearing you.
Oh, sorry, is that better?
Yeah, that's a little bit better.
Sorry about that.
No, that's okay. You know, I think one of the things that you hit on, and there were two things that when you and I spoke that I think are you know, particularly important for anybody listening in terms of looking at Facebook, is that it's not it's not a place where you're going to go out and ask for a job. It's a tool where you're truly going to be connecting with. Bear with me, folks. We're having a little bit of a problem with some of the slides here. As I get this squared away.
But I say, yeah, there's definitely truth to what you just said, that it wasn't a matter of me going out I wasn't just sending my resume out to people and just kind of blindly just telling people, hey, I need a job, I need a job. It was definitely me taking an interest first in the people's company and kind of scanning my networks and the different people who I have connections with through Facebook, and then sending them messages, kind of just taking a general interest in their company and them, and then telling them what, kind of selling, my skills, and just telling them, I could help out with this or this, and give them ideas, and then that's how.
Well, and specifically when you and Sam connected, talk a little bit about what he was looking for, because he wasn't necessarily looking, actually he wasn't looking at all to hire someone, and how you all connected.
Yeah, he wasn't actually really looking for someone. I just contacted him, asking if he maybe needed any help with the marketing or the public relations or even the social networking aspects of his company. And then he even realized, like, yeah, they were, thinking about maybe hiring somebody down the line, but then just by me contacting them, they realized, like, wow, there's no time like the present. And then we have somebody here who reached out to us, kind of offering, their assistance and their help, and they realized that it would be a good fit, and from there it's led to other opportunities, and so all in all it's been a very good thing, and it was by me initially reaching out to him.
Now, one of the things that he had posted on Facebook, if I remember correctly, is a question asking if anyone knew of celebrities, or he was looking to interview some people, and that was kind of your foot in the door from a conversation standpoint. It was actually helping him out with something he was looking for, correct?
Definitely, yeah. He was looking just for different ideas for the magazine Attitude Digest, and so I just kind of realized that he was already using Facebook as a means for his profession. He was already using it for something beyond just social networking. So I felt that he was already doing so it opened the door for me to also use that connection to see where it could lead.
Right. This hits on something that I know people who have gone through my boot camps know I preach, religiously, which is give to get, or it's the same concept as pay it forward, which is really what, and that's a theme today that you're going to hear me repeat over and over again, but this is a great example. Instead of, and you see people doing this on LinkedIn a lot, and I think probably most of the people on the call, I would assume, are more familiar with LinkedIn than they are with Facebook, utilizing it as a tool. But one of the biggest problems that I see people using these tools, they are going out and basically hanging a shingle out saying, I'm looking for work. And that's not where you want to lead in with. I mean, number one, you want to leverage reciprocity. So you certainly want to go out there and connect with someone and find what is it that they need. And by doing that, it does a couple of things. I mean, number one, you're helping someone else out. So 9 times out of 10, they're going to be more apt to return the favor. But what it also does, which is even more important, is it gives you a glimpse into what they're all about, what their business is about, and then how you can add value to them. And again, for those in the mastermind program, those going through the boot camp, we talk about your solution. That's where you can leverage your solution and what you do exceptionally well and where you add value. And it's much more, the value proposition is there versus your value proposition being, I'm looking for work, are you looking to hire? Because that's not the premise by which anyone is ever hired. Yeah. So I appreciate you sharing your story. Anything and any comments you would add before we move on?
Well, I think that also in realm of what you're saying, how a lot of people think that it's that maybe Facebook is more just for social networking and that it's more for Generation Y. But I think that the reason why people maybe think that is just because, like I started off using Facebook, while I was in college. So then a natural progression kind of seemed just to continue using it. But I think that while so many people really enjoy Facebook, and another reason why it is beneficial for professional networking is that it kind of showcases the entire person, versus where LinkedIn showcases just somebody just as a professional. Whereas this way you can kind of get more of a total picture of a person. But then in mind you have to also be aware of the information that you are sharing. But I think that allows for a more genuine picture of a person who you may be hiring. So I think that is definitely a benefit to Facebook, whereas the other networks don't have that. Does that make sense?
No, it makes perfect sense. And when we move over here in a minute to Cheryl, she has some great examples with regard to that, because she came in with that full intention of walking that line between personal and professional, and using this as a networking tool. Because the fact of the matter is this: people hire individuals they like. And we all work through the same process of know, like, and trust in making the decisions about who we're going to hire, just like we do purchasing things, deciding who we're going to spend money with. If we're looking for coaches, we're looking for advice. So I think that leveraging that and acknowledging that and embracing it and utilizing Facebook, that allows you to do these things much easier than a tool like LinkedIn does.
Yeah, and just by me initially just getting the one job with Sam, it's led to now the radio show, and as well as work with a couple of other motivational speakers. So it's definitely led to other things, and so I can definitely thank Facebook for.
Absolutely. Well, that's great. Well, I hope that you will be able to stick around for the Q&A session at the end. Will you be able to do that?
Definitely.
Okay, great. Well, hey, thank you very much. I appreciate you being on. And next we're going to jump over to Cheryl Weiser. Cheryl, are you there?
I'm here. Good morning, everyone, or maybe good afternoon on the East Coast.
Right.
From Seattle, it's still morning.
Right. Well, thanks for starting your day off with us then. What I wanted to do, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier when we were talking to Ashley, is you set out with the intent of using Facebook as a networking tool. Can you talk a little bit about how you did that?
Sure, I'd be happy to. And I think this goes back to what Ashley finished up with, about that Facebook allows you to show the whole person. But I have, in some ways, the advantage of having lived in Seattle for a long time, for about 25 years. So I already had a pretty good network of people that I've known over time. And so Facebook, I started in 2008, and it, like anything that I would do personally in terms of my own personal networking, it became another extension of that. So I think it was something that I took to pretty naturally, and that I felt that it was something that I wanted to incorporate into my life as a way to stay connected with people I cared about, but also as an additional networking tool. So there was a lot of intent there to use it in those two streams. And so so what I was able to do was to go on, and from the get-go, I really wanted to maintain the sense of who I was, but also always with the intent that this was going to be an opportunity for me to connect with people and just open up new opportunities for work. So,
can you share a little bit about how you did that? Because I know, and I can almost guess when we jump into the Q&A session some of the main questions, because I know I've gotten them particularly through boot camps and Q&A calls in the mastermind. Have all been circling around, how do I balance out that professional and the personal side, and maybe some of the things that you did and how you leveraged it, and then particularly, which would be a good segue into how you ended up at Cascade Harvest, to share a little bit about that.
So if I understand the question, is it more about how I
I did.
went about...
I lumped about 3 in there, didn't I?
Yeah, I know.
So
It's about
sorry.
how I maybe started to create my profile, and maybe what were some of those parameters that I had around that. Is that what you're
Exactly,
asking
and maybe
me?
some
Okay.
tips and advice that you would give to anyone who is who's struggling with balancing out personal and professional on Facebook.
Yeah, I've given this a lot of thought, and I think probably there's 2 pieces, and I think the first one is, like you would face with LinkedIn, or any of those kinds of networking sites. You have to write about yourself, and that can be challenging. So I would think, the first thing was really, what do I want to say about myself? How much information do I want to share? And so I started actually with, you had the opportunity to put quotes in there. And I started with a quote that means a great deal to me. And, it's from a great poet, Mary Oliver. And, anybody could look at that and go, oh, I can relate to that. It's not a quote from, a slasher film.
Right.
Not that there's,
Not that there's anything wrong with that, but
right, but there's a balance between how much information you provide and what your hobbies are, I love to cook and garden, and I have a big dog, and I love to hike and go to movies and do all that. I love Italian food and cheese, and again, all of those things that are part of my personality. I didn't feel there was anything wrong with putting those on, and so. When it got to, though, personal information, that's kind of the next thing about what was the network that I wanted to have see what I put up. So, again, I've tended to keep it more just friends. That's just a personal privacy choice on my part. And then as I started linking into people and, asking people to be my friends, again, I've always kind of been I have friends, I have family that are on there, but I sort of had at the start some standards that I wanted. And you and I talked about this. I didn't want people posting things on there that, they were just posting things that were inappropriate in terms of language or photos. And so that was just, those were just some standards that I had for myself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes perfect sense. And you hit on something that I think is extremely important. One of the bigger or larger hurdles out there for people in the midst of the job search, particularly right now, as we're just under 10% unemployment, and the real unemployment number is actually higher than that with the people who have just flat out stopped looking, is that if you're trying to differentiate and you're trying to connect with people by using a resume, and again, folks in the Mastermind program know we talk about this a lot. If you're trying to use that as the tool to differentiate yourself, I mean, you're just swimming against a riptide. And that's where using a tool like this, where you're able to connect with people on a different level and to show a little bit of your personal side and share some interest and have some connectivity there. And then when you're bringing in your professional aspects, and your accomplishments and what you've done and your solution, there's not only value there, but there's a tangible connection, which again, at the end of the day, we're going to hire the people we like and that we know, like, and trust.
You get an opportunity to talk about yourself in a way that you never would in a job interview. I mean, you can talk about books that are meaningful to you and films. Just as an example, you can start to think about, well, what are some of my favorite quotes, which is a way also of expressing yourself. And someone may look at that and go, I love that writer, or I love that quote, and you've instantly made a connection that you would never make on a resume.
Well, and a good point here. Absolutely, and one of the things to think about as well is that it's a missed opportunity if you're not using it in terms of having a billboard out there to get this information across. I mean, whether you decide to actively start to use it and work your network and use tools like Sharon's going to share here in a minute, that's your choice. But the fact remains that, I think the number is somewhere between 70 and 80% of hiring managers who were surveyed by CareerBuilder end of last year said they're going to use social media to check up on people. Certainly you're going to be Googled. And if you have a Facebook page, LinkedIn and Facebook and Twitter are going to pop right up when somebody Googles you, particularly if you don't have a run-of-the-mill last name. So you can be found very easily, and it's a great opportunity without you sharing those things. I mean, it takes you back 20 years with the resume where people would put their interest on the bottom of the resume, and now that's looked at as hokey, but you can accomplish the exact same goal by simply using this piece of real estate out there to share some of your interest. And someone can look at it and say, wow, that we have, there's some common ground, there's some similarities here, and be able to leverage that in a conversation. And conversely, you can do that.
Which is exactly how I got my job at Cascade Harvest Coalition.
Yeah, share a little bit about that, please.
Yeah, the work that I do is for a nonprofit sustainable food and farming organization, and actually the executive director and I were introduced as friends by another friend of mine on Facebook. And as it turns out, I was spending time in Montana with my dog in the snow, and I was, putting that on Facebook, and all of a sudden she popped up and started writing about her dogs, and she had grown up in Montana. So right there we had established this shared conversation about something we loved, about a mutual place. And then I found out that there was a position that was open, and in last January I went and interviewed, and that was it. I had the job at the end of the interview because we had been conversing with one another for the last month about these shared experiences. And I've got to say, having a dog is a good thing.
Right. Well, you and I talked about that. We're both dog lovers, so.
We're dog lovers, and there's a lot of dog lovers and cat lovers out there. So that's
right.
Always a nice little segue.
I think as I shared with you, I share about my daughter and my dog on my Facebook page, and depending upon the day, one of them has ranking of number 1 and number 2 respectively. So
I tell you, my dog gets more hits than I do.
Right. Well, any other things you'd like to add or share with folks listening in today?
I think I'll probably wait for questions if anybody has any. I just we'll just see what comes up, but I'm sticking around for questions.
Yeah, well, that's great. I appreciate that. There are questions coming in, and for those of you listening, if a question pops into your head as you're listening to us talk, just go ahead and type it in, hit send, so it'll pop up on this end, and we're going to push through those here in a few minutes. Next up, we're going to chat with Sharon, and I'm going to unmute Sharon here. This usually takes a second. Sharon, are you there?
I'm here. Hi, Kevin.
Fantastic.
Thanks so much for having me.
Oh, absolutely. Thanks for being on. Well, Sharon Feingold is the creator of an application for Facebook called Hire My Friend. And if you've signed up for the webinar in the past few days, you may have seen through the Facebook fan page, and also I've emailed out a couple of articles, or one article in particular that talked about Hire My Friend. Sharon, what I'd love to do is have you talk a little bit about where the inspiration came from behind Hire My Friend.
Sure. Probably a couple different places. I grew up in a business family. My mom still owns a healthcare staffing agency called MedPro in Atlanta, Georgia. And, being part of a family business, I learned the business. And one thing we used to do, most recruiters, the typical way it goes is there's a job order and you want to fill it with one of your candidates, which works great. Every once in a while we would have a candidate that was just really, really strong, but there was no existing job order for them. And we would essentially kind of brand and market them, call up some of our clients or call up even people that weren't our clients and say, hey, we've got this great registered nurse who I know you might not have any open positions, but glowing references, and we would really build them up, and we would have people hire our candidates that weren't even looking. So I realized, slowly the power of having somebody talk on your behalf and sort of sell you when it comes to looking for your next job or your next gig. Skip to many years later, I moved to New York City to become a freelance creative in the entertainment industry, and realized just how much of that, people, promoting and recommending me led to the development of my career. And so that's kind of, all of this was kind of, percolating over the years. And when I became a heavy Facebook user, and I realized, all of these things, promoting your friend and helping people, helping people brand themselves through recommendation, can easily be done right here on Facebook if the right application, allows for it. Just another side note, I send out a quarterly newsletter, and on it, I send it out to, friends and colleagues in, the entertainment industry. And I always include a section called Shameless Friend Promotion, where I highlight, another creative who might be looking for work, or either they're freelancing or they're unemployed. And, so everybody, if I send it out to 1,000 people, I highlight one person, 1,000 people now know about a director or a producer or a writer. So all of that kind of converged into this concept, and I thought, wouldn't it be great if people got in this mindset and were able to sort of have the structure on Facebook to be able to promote their friends that are out of work and their friends that are, freelancing. And that sort of coupled with everything that's been going on in the recession, I felt like, I guess it all converged at the right time when social media hit the recession. It kind of an interesting convergence, and unfortunate but fortunate. So Facebook,
well, yeah, you and I talked about that a little bit. That it's, I think we are fortunate to have this tool right now, and it allows people to kind of mitigate unemployment and find opportunities that otherwise they wouldn't. Going back to what Ashley was talking about, this really is. I mean, it's a global community in terms of looking for work, and particularly, you think about the work that you do, it's largely irrelevant where it's based. So if you can position yourself that way, and or you have an opportunity like that, these tools are even that much more powerful because you're able to connect with people that otherwise you never would have.
Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I think we were saying, it's kind of like if you have a friend looking for work, and you gathered 500 of your good friends in a room and then brought that friend up on stage and said, hey, everybody, this is my friend, they're looking for, a job. I mean, when could you ever do that before, I mean,
very true.
So this is a way to do that.
You could, it was just highly cost prohibitive, so.
Right. Right. So, if you're looking for a job and 5 of your friends showcase you to 1,000 people in their network, when networks are growing every day, I mean, that's a lot of people who can instantaneously know that you're looking for a job, and you have someone backing you. So you're not saying, hey, everybody, I'm looking for work. Your friend is saying it on your behalf. So.
Well, let's do this. You've shared a little bit, and you've talked about some phrases that are central to the application for Hire My Friend. Let's take a test run through here, a test drive. How does that sound?
Sure. Great.
Okay, I'm going
to
pull that up here.
Okay. And I'll keep my fingers crossed. We still have some glitches from time to time.
Right. No, I'm sure it'll be fine. Well, here we go. Well, talk a little bit about the promote your friend. And while you're doing this, because I'm a horrible multitasker, I'm going to type in the person who we're going to be promoting here today.
Okay, sure. Well, this is tab 1. There's 3 tabs at the top. Tab 1 is promote your friend. You've spoken to a friend of yours, and they're looking for work. You want to showcase them to your network. So this was the first tab. This is the Hire My Friend tab. The other tabs are new functionalities. But within this tab, you just type in a friend's name, and hopefully you've spoken to them before and said, hey, I'm going to do this, just to make sure this is something they want. Put their ideal job title in below. And I have examples on the right that will show you basically what it translates to after you, finish filling out the form. Essentially what it does is 2 things. I'm sorry, Kevin?
No, I was going to say I'm having a little bit of trouble pulling up my friend who we're supposed to be promoting, so I'm not quite sure what's going on here. So, but I'm sorry, keep on. I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just going to add, you have to make sure you are friends with that person on Facebook, and if you're not friends with that person on Facebook, then they won't come up in this pull down. So, just something to think about. You have to be a mutual friend. basically what happens is two things, and it's very simple. You could do the same thing in your status update. It just provides structure for announcing to your live feed and at the same time putting a little box on your profile where people that are searching and looking at your profile can see some more information about your friends. So I call it a profile box and a live feed announcement. So so I guess, Kevin, you guys have to friend each other first.
Right. I am taking care of that as we speak. So.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it. Do you want me to go ahead and describe the other tabs, or you want me to wait?
Yeah, let's do this. Let's jump over and kind of talk through. Well, you know what? She just accepted.
She accepted your request. Okay, great.
That. So what we'll do is we'll talk through this. I'm going to go ahead. There we go. And fill this out real quick. I think you mentioned talking about making sure you're getting your friend's permission before. Did you not?
Hopefully I did touch on that, yeah.
Okay.
I mean, lightly. Yeah, it really is essential. I mean, you might think you're helping your friend look for new work, but you never know. I mean, if they're still on a job and looking for another job, you never know who's in your network who knows someone who knows somebody who might just be that person's boss. You really have to be careful. Really have to be careful. And even if they're looking for work and aren't currently working, there's not everybody is comfortable with being publicly showcased. So yes, I highly suggest it, and I'll actually have a disclaimer there as well, just in case it's not clear. We don't want to be held responsible for anything. But yeah, I mean, it's still real life. Even though we're on Facebook, the same rules still apply. If you have to ask yourself, is this something my friend would want? In real life, you want to do that here on Facebook as well.
Right. Okay, so we have it filled out. It's tied into Marion's LinkedIn profile. So next step for us is go ahead and publish to the profile and feed.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly.
This always seems to take a little while when we've got a number of callers on the line, so we've got a pretty full webinar today. So bear with us here. Okay, here we go. Nothing like a little dead air, huh?
It was working. It should be working.
No, it's working fine. This is for anyone on the call. There's don't adjust your screen. Everything is fine for whatever reason. Particularly when we go to use applications like this. Sharon and I were actually going to share a YouTube video, and it just doesn't interface with GoToWebinar very well. So it's taking a little while to load here. Okay, it seems to have gotten a little hung up there. So
you might want to go just straight to your profile, see if it posted.
Okay.
I was actually on Facebook right before this webinar, and there seemed to be some network problems with Facebook. Okay. So,
well, I'll go ahead and pull it up. No, it did not post.
All right, maybe we should try one more time.
Okay, absolutely. We'll give this one more shot.
Yeah. Facebook has also been making a lot of updates in their layout, and right when I first launched, they made some major changes, and it knocked my application offline for the weekend. And it was during that time that I got a 1-star rating from somebody rating the application, because it just and sometimes it's just completely out of our control.
Okay, bear with me as I type this out again. I am not much of a multitasker when it comes to talking and typing. Okay. All right. Almost there. We're going to plug in the LinkedIn profile. That did autocomplete, so Here we go. We'll try this one more time. Then that'll load a little bit quicker. Okay, here we go. Yeah. So explain what we're seeing right now in terms of this screen.
This is really just a standard, let other people know about this.
Okay.
You can select different friends that, it's not pertinent to that specific person. It's just to let people know about the application. Now here, you'll have to scroll down and click on, there's a tab of, oh, you know what? Actually, since you've already showcased a friend, that won't actually be there. If it's the first time you've used it, there's going to be something that says, yes, you can post this to my profile. But yours should already be there since you've had a box before.
Okay. Let's pop that over, and I'll show that on my screen. And for anybody who wants to see this, after the webinar, you can go ahead and friend me. I'm open in terms of networking, so I'll accept any request, and you can see exactly how this pops up. You see it here in the center, and then as we scroll down on the left-hand side, and I thought this was really neat, and this was great that you have this pop up right underneath friends. So if people are looking at friends, they see this.
Exactly. Yeah, that was a strategic decision.
Well thought out, not by accident.
we want people to be accustomed to, when you look at someone's friends, everybody has that. Who are their friends? What is the makeup? What is the color of this person's personality? And so people look over there and they want to know, something about their friends. If this is right underneath it, here's something they're going to know about one of their friends is that they're looking for work. So trying to get people in that mindset.
Well, I'm going to pop back over to the application because there are two other tabs, and I want to talk about the next one, asking a friend to promote you, because let's face it, and you and I talked about where do we start out here first. Number one, do we start with promote your friend, or do we start with ask a friend to promote you? Because ultimately that's where we all want to be.
Right.
And like you and I talked about, there's the theme of give to get and pay it forward. So help other people, and then with the hope that individuals are going to reciprocate.
Right, absolutely.
So any advice in terms of somebody using this for the first time, they would like a friend to promote them, they're listening to the webinar today, they say, hey, this is a great tool, I have a couple of friends in mind, what they should do, and what's the best way to maximize this?
Yeah, I think, if the person does not have the application yet, if the person you're trying to reach out to ask to promote you, we do have a built-in functionality for that. But I do think, just like on the first tab, an offline discussion might be a good thing. It's not necessary, but just to say, hey, there's a new application, making it easier for friends to promote friends that are looking for work, and guiding them to the application. Once that friend is added the application, and you've sent a request, those requests are going to end up in a third tab. So the second tab, Ask a Friend to Promote You, is sort of connected to the Pending Request tab, which is where the friend will get the requests.
Okay, I'm going to pull that tab up now.
Right, so that's right. We did a test with the test account yesterday where I sent you a request under my fake Facebook account.
Right.
and so basically what happens is, since I'm asking you to promote me, the one field that's different than the first tab is the recommendation, because I think, or I felt that should really come from the friend who's promoting. So I filled out my ideal job title, I filled in my LinkedIn profile, but I'm asking Kevin to fill in a recommendation for me. And so once he does that and publishes to profile and feed, he's kind of in the same place where he was on the first tab, which is promoting the friend.
Right. Well, this is great. What I'd like to do is jump back over to the fan page. I know we've had a number of questions come in about the application, and we'll definitely get to those in a few minutes. But go back over, because on your fan page, you've got some great resources on there as well. And for those of you listening in, the application is free. There's no charge for any of this. This is just a phenomenal resource that Sharon has put together for no other reason than to try to help some people. So I highly encourage that everybody take advantage of this, give it a test run, and see if you can find somebody out there. I'm sure you have a friend on Facebook that would love to see you get hired. So to walk us through some... I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, on that same note, I would encourage anyone, if you hear any success stories, to please reach out to me and let me know. and maybe Kevin, you
Absolutely.
can make my email address available to people.
Okay,
Or even if they
I'd
just have
be
general
glad
questions.
to do that. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And
Yeah,
if you have any successes, and you're whether you're a fan on Hire My Friend or Build the Career You Deserve, I don't know if you can. I don't know if yours is open to doing this, to posting something on there as a success story. But if you come over to Build the Career You Deserve and post it there, or Hire My Friend, we'll make sure that Sharon's made aware of it and get everybody linked up.
that'd be great.
Well, walk us through some of the tabs here on your friend page or your fan page.
Sure. I just kind of like to have fun with everything I do. I think if you're not having fun, you're not doing something that you love. So beyond building an application, which was fun, I wanted to kind of make it fun for people to use it, and a fun place for people to visit, as well as just a bigger resource than just the application. So I built in 3 custom tabs. Now, Kevin, are they loading on your end, or is it slow?
They're showing on this side. I can pull up I'm going to do the Be Fun Employed.
Okay, great. Now I
the
see
video.
that.
There we go.
There we go. Yeah, this is just I enjoy comedy. I enjoy comedy related to Hire My Friend, related to if you can't laugh, I mean, that's sort of my philosophy. Yes, it's a really bad state right now. The economy it did tank, and people are hurting and looking for work, but there's a lot to still smile about, and so I compiled 10 entertaining clips, just different clips on YouTube that were related to jobs or looking for jobs. And I have a scene from 30 Rock, and I have a scene from Seinfeld when Kramer never really got hired but just started working in an office until he got fired. So I just thought, that's just some, they're funny videos, and I just thought that would be a good way to get everybody to remember to smile a little bit through the excruciating, process of looking for a job.
Well, I think that's great, because I actually had this conversation on a webinar last month, and we were talking about personal style and talking about humor and when it's appropriate to bring in and when it isn't, and that's you and I have talked a good bit, and I think have similar senses of humor, and it's a fine line to walk. But what I all of a sudden realized about a month ago was that prior to all this, I was an infantry officer in the Army, and that's it's a relatively stressful job, and definitely has some austere situations put in front of you on a daily basis. But the unit I was in, we would joke around all the time, and you did it for that express reason that, look, life
Right.
and your job was going to get serious enough as is. You didn't need to help it. So
Right.
I would encourage people to look at this and try to find some things to inject some levity. In the boot camp, I talk about this in the very first session about mindset and cutting those things out that are negative and bringing you down. You've got enough on your plate. You don't. Maybe something as basic as just not watching the news in the morning. I mean, that is not going to pick you up. That's going to
At the end of the day, you
counterbalance
have to
all the
laugh.
caffeine. Right. Very true.
Right.
Very true.
So yeah, and of course I'll probably be updating that section from time to time. So if anyone has suggestions of clips that they think are particularly funny, or even ideas for other humorous additions to the application or to the fan page, please let me know as well.
Absolutely. Now the next one is for Twitter, correct?
Correct. Yeah, more and more people are posting jobs on Twitter, and they're coming every second, pretty much.
Right.
I don't know how familiar everybody is with Twitter, but there are sort of self-invented items called hashtags, which categorize postings so that people can search for a specific hashtag and see everything related to it. So after somebody posts a tweet, if they put that hashtag, it creates that category. So I found that the 4 best categories for finding jobs or reading the latest job tweets are jobs. It's a pound
Right.
sign, jobs, job, and then I think it was hiring and careers. I changed it around a couple of times, and I might still change it around. But this is where you can thumb through the latest job postings on Twitter in the categories that I've sort of self-decided might be the most significant ones. If you click on the arrow at the bottom of these boxes, you can see the tweet right before it and how long ago it was posted. And of course, to refresh, to get the absolute latest, you want to click on the Job Tweets tab again, and that'll take you right back. I also provided a link on each of these boxes. Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, no.
Just going back
Sorry,
for 1
getting ahead of you.
If you want to actually go to Twitter and search, I don't know if you can click to an outside link there, but if you click on that link, it'll take you to the same thing on Twitter, so you can kind of do your tweet investigation there in a better suited place than a small tab on a fan page. And the Job Resources tab is just a list of job resources, everything from blogs to actually there's the job humor section again, recurring theme, and
right.
the major search engines and resume solutions, and I'm going to attempt to build this to make it greater and greater. But this is a good starting point. Although it is missing a very important blog, which would be Kevin's.
That's all right. All in good time.
And that will be up there. That'll be up there soon.
Well, I think this is great, and anyone who has, I know that a lot of people have joined the Build the Career You Deserve fan page, but definitely go over to Hire My Friend to both check out the application and as well become a friend on here, because Sharon's putting some great information out through the site, and it's tough to find. That there's, and I'm going to talk about this in a second, there's a myriad of information out there on the internet, and it's tough to find good information, and good information that works, and from people who, for lack of a better way to put it, get it. And this is definitely one of those pages, and Sharon's one of those folks in this application. I would highly encourage people trying out, and let us know. I mean, send it in to, whether it's through this fan page, email us, let us know about the success you're having with it, whether it's responses, interviews, ideally jobs that you're getting, and we'll keep everybody updated about that. Well, hey, Sharon, thank you very much. What I want to do is I want to jump into the Q&A session. Before we do that, I do want to talk really briefly about the Mastermind program, who I've mentioned a few times on here, and for those of you on the call who aren't members. You can navigate to it from my website, Build the Career You Deserve. You click on the Mastermind program, and it brings up the page where I have more information about the program. I've developed a short behind-the-scenes video on the web page, and what you get in there is this webinar along with all our subject matter expert calls and Q&A calls. They're kept here for members to watch and download, along with a number of other resources, the training videos, the one-on-one coaching calls, etc., that I talked about earlier. So I'd invite you to watch the short video. It's about 2 to 3 minutes. It explains everything about the program, including how you can get a recording of today's call. So, okay, I know this is what everybody's been waiting for, because there are a number of questions that have come in. We're going to jump over here to the Q&A session, and let me start working my way through some of the questions here, and we're going to start out from the top. And what I want to let everybody know is that if we don't have time to get to all the questions, I'm going to pull them off here. You can also email them in to mastermind@kevinkermis.com. And I will make sure that they get answered within the next week, and I'll push that out to everybody who's signed up for the call. The first question comes in from Henry, and Henry asks, how does Facebook equate to LinkedIn as a professional social media site? And anybody want to chime in with their 2 cents worth on that? How the two marry up and comparing the two?
I guess I'd like to answer that.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, even in your social life, there's business. Whether you're at church or synagogue or at a social function, it's still, hey, what do you do? Or you're, networking to find your next thing. So I think that LinkedIn is kind of the workplace, and Facebook is kind of the social gathering. And there's always an interplay between your two lives, your professional life and your social life. And so I kind of see it as two different realms that are just highly interconnected. And the reason I put a link to the LinkedIn profile within my application is for that very reason. So I'm sorry, Cheryl, I think you had something you wanted to say as well.
All I wanted to say, and Kevin, you and I talked about this yesterday, that the numbers that had just come out that said that Facebook mobile has now outstripped Twitter. So I think it's important sometimes to just be paying attention to those social media trends. And, you know, everybody is different. Everybody has an end use. Everybody has a business or a profession or things that they're places where they're at where what they're looking for demands or asks for more social media interaction. But it's also important to stay on top of those social media trends, whether you're subscribing to a blog or whatever it is. But I thought that was pretty interesting. And, you know, there's a lot of, sometimes there's thought out there about, you know, touting Twitter's demise. But I think that all of these tools are really necessary. And in addition to LinkedIn, Biznik is also a very interesting, kind of almost a little bit more of a personal kind of networking site, so not quite as professionally oriented as LinkedIn, a little bit more geared towards entrepreneurs. So I just wanted to throw that out there.
Well, you know, one of the things that's interesting about and when you and I spoke yesterday, and what you brought up about the mobile access and how many people are accessing Facebook through mobile devices, is that don't think about it in terms of I'm going to sit down, I'm going to Facebook for a little bit in the evening. It is this tool that people are accessing sometimes when they want to check out a little bit from their jobs. And what's important about that is that I think for anybody who's on the call, I mean, I know this definitely holds true for me, whether I'm hiring somebody for my organization now or organizations I've worked for in the past when I've managed groups and I needed to hire. When you have that need, when you have that opening, one of two things is happening with it. Either you're taking on that work or you're having to push it on to somebody else on your team, in which case they're not very happy about it. The bottom line is you're in pain. And whether you're at work, whether you are actively working through LinkedIn trying to find something, and this is one of the questions I get about Facebook a lot, which is, you know, people aren't going there to find people to work for them. Well, they may not be right now, which I also think is one of the reasons that it makes it one of the best places to go. Because while they may not be going there with that intent, that need and that pain is not going away. And when you pop up in front of them in a place that they never expected to find you, you've got the spotlight on you, and you're going to shine a lot brighter. And it's not as if people forget that they need to hire. I can promise you, and I think anyone on this call who has managed folks and led teams can relate to that very well, particularly when you're working in a larger organization where you're getting, well, it can be larger or smaller. I mean, I feel the pain regardless. There's nobody above me, but in Fortune 500 companies that I've worked for, I was getting heat when seats were remaining open in my group. So I wasn't going to forget about that if I decided to go to Facebook and throw a sheep at somebody for 5 minutes or do whatever. So yeah, and any other comments you guys have on that question? Okay. Well, the next question is from William, and he asks, does the same logic in terms of 2 to 3 degrees of separation apply to LinkedIn, that apply to LinkedIn? Does that fit Facebook as well? He said, I've had similar successes there, but have always thought of Facebook as a social tool. And I think that kind of comes back to what you were just saying, Sharon, about, you know, the blurred lines of social and professional. But talking about, have you all had experiences where maybe that second or third degree of separation between somebody has worked to your advantage for Facebook?
Absolutely. I mean, that's exactly what happened to me. I mean, it was really 1 degree of separation. I think in some ways there is no separation. You know, I mean, you find the most amazing links to people. I met somebody actually at a social event this last week, and at the party we knew 2 or 3 people in common. She said, Facebook me, and I did, and it turns out we had 4 or 5 other friends in common we hadn't even touched on. And I'm thinking, wow, how did this whole new network just opened up? So personally, I don't even see degrees of separation between, you know, you think of, here's LinkedIn, this is a professional, and then here's Facebook, this is just a social media tool, because it is all eventually about connecting and networking. But that's just me. This is my take on it.
Right. A lot of questions coming in about Hire My Friend, and what I think I'm going to do there is maybe take that offline with Sharon and get all those answers pushed back out to everyone, and maybe even do another short call with her where we field this. So again, if your question, because we're pushing up on an hour here, and I'm going to take a few more minutes for Q&A. If your question doesn't get answered, please send it in to mastermind@kevinkermis.com. I'll make sure they get answered and pushed out to everyone who signed up for the webinar today. One of the questions that came in from Ray, and maybe you guys can field this as well. How can you effectively erase the mistakes of the past with like Twitter or Facebook from appearing in a Google search? So let's say you've been using Facebook. Let's really focus in on Facebook for a second. You're using Facebook as strictly a social site. Now you've listened to this. You've seen the value in trying to use it from a professional networking site, and there are things on there that you don't want other people to see. By pulling them off, are they still categorized by Google? Is it still going to be out there?
I don't know the answer to that, actually, although what I do know is that privacy has become a very big issue with users of all social media sites, and they've demanded tougher privacy settings. And from the get-go, I think any social media site you sign up for, and a lot of us sign up for more than we ever even use, it's too much data floating around, and I would just be very careful from the beginning to keep your profile as private as possible, to opt out of the option that it shows up in a search engine. I think if you want to connect with people, they'll find you, or you'll find them. I don't think people are Googling you necessarily at this point to find you on those sites. Although it does happen, I would still caution against it. Maybe for Facebook and LinkedIn, but certainly and maybe Twitter, but for the glut of all these other sites that you join, I would say, privacy settings from the very beginning to not be found.
Right.
I don't second that emotion big time.
Yeah. And also with Facebook, you can alter the privacy settings based on your friends. You can make a list of family where you can maybe put your photos of your kids or your grandkids up, but then where you have a list of people who you don't know as well, you don't necessarily, you can set it, and you can go to your privacy tab, the privacy settings, and you can alter who sees what.
That's a great point, and I think I've actually, there have been a lot of questions coming in about the privacy settings, and for the social media videos we have in the Mastermind program, I am going to plug in and create a quick video. Either I'll create it or I'll go find one to plug in there for everybody to be able to see how to navigate the privacy settings, so that you're able to you're able to control who's seeing what, and which I think is the easiest way to deal with all this. One more question before we go. And this comes back to something that you were talking about before, Cheryl. How do you control what your friends write on your wall? Since some people will just flood your wall with pictures and junk every day, and if you want to control what's being seen out there, again, is that a privacy setting issue?
It's a combination of things. I think first of all is, and I was giving some thought to it this morning because I think this again can be a bit of a challenge, but for the most part, I don't feel flooded. In other words, if I have friends, and I'll put that in quote, that have really been doing that a lot, I will actually hide them from my feed, or if they're posting things that are just really inappropriate, I will not have them as my friend anymore. But I haven't really had that problem. And I feel that for the most part, things that are coming onto my page are okay, but I'm vigilant about my privacy settings. And with Facebook, you really have to stay on top of what they're doing because, Facebook is not benign. I mean, just because it's free, it doesn't mean that they're not trying to get something out of you. So, for example, with your photos, if you're not careful about photos that you put up or your albums, they become, and you don't mark them properly, they become public domain. And so there was a lot of hue and cry about that. That changed recently. So you have to be really careful about what you post, looking at your application settings, your privacy settings, and make sure that what you put up there. And so, the way that it works is that I may be seeing these images and these comments coming in, but let's say I'm going to you, Ashley, or Sharon, for a job. You're not necessarily going to see what people are posting to my page. So you control access, obviously, to what comes in on your own site. But I think part of it is when people will comment on something you say. But again, for the most part, I haven't had a problem with inappropriate comments, and by that I really mean language. That's what I mean by inappropriate.
Okay. What if along those same lines with like a photo? Because somebody just wrote this in, and I've experienced this where you've been tagged in a photo without your knowledge or your permission. Is there anything you can do about that?
I think there is, and I think I'm not 100% sure, but I think if you go to Facebook and you go to the FAQ on help, I think there are things that you can do.
Okay.
And if you have someone that's doing it repeatedly, I think you can also, you might be able to go and ask them, but I'm not 100% sure on how to answer that question.
Because don't you have to be friends with someone in order for them to tag you in a photo?
Yes.
You do?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think I actually remember at some point being really upset about all these tagged photos of me, and I believe I changed just one setting that said, like that what happens when you tag someone in a photo is that if you don't have the right setting, it'll show up on your feed and as one of your photos. I believe they can tag you, but this way it won't link itself back to your profile. So it's kind of the same thing as them just having a picture of you up there, which they can do anyway. So I think what I did removed the tag just in the sense that it was no longer linked to my profile, even though the picture was still there.
Okay. Yeah, Deborah just sent a message in saying for photo tagging, you can change your settings so that you get a notification when you're tagging a photo. Then you have the option to untag. So it sounds like there's some increased control there. I need to go back and look at some of those pictures. So some untagging to do. We put that on the list of things to do. Well, hey, I want to thank you, Ashley, Cheryl, and Sharon, for taking time out today and sharing this. I think this has been invaluable. I know that one of the reasons I put this together was I was looking for one subject matter expert out there on how to use Facebook in the job search, and I couldn't find them. And then that's typically what we do on these subject matter expert calls. We had Marcy Reynolds talking about Twitter about a month ago, and I couldn't find a Marcy Reynolds for Facebook. So thank you for this collective effort. I think this has been great in terms of shining a light on how to use this tool.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thank you.
Great. It's been a great experience. Thank you. Everybody, good luck.
Absolutely. Well, this is Kevin Kermis signing off.